open to everyone. Unfortunately, poverty stops people from actively participating in their community and economic development really of any kind. So really, poverty reduction is essential for creating any kind of society where everyone can participate. So I'm quite excited. I just came back from the Poverty Reduction Summit in Ottawa, and I heard many exciting projects that are taking place all over Canada. So I'm going to try and weave some of those stories that I heard to show how poverty reduction really also fits in with this theme of creating local economies. I'm also going to talk about what we're doing in the NWT and in the city of Yellowknife. So I have to say right now that that is my perspective, and I know that there are rich stories happening all over the NWT, and I hope to hear about more of those. I'll also talk about what we could be doing, all of those. So I want to start off by saying that Senator David Kroll said the poor do not choose poverty. It is at once their affliction and our national shame. So really, society chooses poverty. We build it up with our economic and social policy, and we support certain rights and we ignore others. Poverty is not a new problem, but living in poverty today is worse than it was for our parents' generation. Dana Robbins, who was the former publisher of the Hamilton Spectator, noted that we have seen an increasing polarization of our society. So the story is, before you grew up shoulder to shoulder with people of different income levels, and you had social interaction. So an example would be children of miners being invited to the mine manager's child's birthday party. But today, the world of poor people is much smaller, because of the increase in personal wealth and affluence that has resulted in less contact between groups of people. So we're not talking here about the richest 1%, but we're talking about the middle class. Those of us who sustain trendy restaurants and drive real estate prices up and don't blink in the face of $5 lattes. This makes poverty more corrosive. When abundance rejoices, it makes poverty worse and ultimately weakens the fabric of our society. In the North, I think it would also be accurate to say that there is limited social contact between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people. And I don't need to tell you that the poverty indicators for First Nations and other communities are consistently far higher across the country, including in the North. So some people say we can't afford to fund efforts to reduce poverty. Many, and I would be one of them, would answer that's nonsense. We are a rich country. We squander private and public money. We readily fund the criminal justice system, even when it costs $120,000 a year to keep a youth in jail. But let's get back to building localized economy. Let's consider the economic benefits of reducing poverty. Prevention is really a key to solving poverty. According to Stephen Hudart, who's the president of the McConnell Family Foundation, which is one of the larger foundations in Canada, 20% of our efforts in social spending go toward treating conditions that can be prevented. So if we allocated our public spending for smarter social programs that address poverty at its roots, we could reduce the crush on public spending. For example, in Canada, we have about 10,000 children in foster care. One of the reasons for taking children away is often the condition of the house. So we pay the social and economic cost of taking a child away from their home instead of helping the family support the child. In the NWT, for example, 19% of homes are in core need. We could say the same about reducing incarceration, as there is a link between poverty levels and incarceration rates. So Alberta estimates that they lose about $7 billion in income from poverty. So did I say already, and I want to say again, that Canada needs an anti-poverty action plan. Let's move on to health. People who are more wealthy are more healthy. The benefits of poverty reduction in terms of health are massive. Conversely, the best way to reduce healthcare costs is to reduce poverty. Here's an example of how this can happen. Hamilton did a major review of the relationship between health and income. They reviewed about 400,000 health records, and they mapped the results according to Hamilton neighborhoods. They found a 21-year gap in lifespan between Hamilton's poorest and richest neighborhood. 7 neighborhoods had higher incidence of low-weight babies than sub-Saharan Africa. One poor neighborhood had 1,300 emergency visits per 1,000 people. Most of them had 100. They found the 10 highest rates of mental health emergencies in the same neighborhoods. One neighborhood ranked last or scored very low on most criteria of wellness. This type of discrepancy exists in cities across Canada. So when we talk about poverty, let's talk about health. Health is an issue that Canadians understand. We have a broad consensus on health. Romano said, "Our commitment to public health care is one of the glues that hold the country together." Generally, Canadians do not think that any class or socio-economic group should have poorer health, certainly not health outcomes that rival third world countries. We have a plague among us. It is not AIDS or Ebola, it is poverty. Everyone understands that we need to work on this issue together. So how can we involve business? So at this forum, they really talked about when dealing with business and poverty reduction, and I would actually say the same thing for creating localized economies. We shouldn't just ask for money, we should ask for their skills. We should say that we need the talents that they have, and we need to put those skills to work. The money may come later, but even in the getting of the skills, it will be quite useful to us. So what about cooperatives? Well, co-ops already have a community development focus, and they can address issues like under or overproduction, or they can look at different ways of involving the community more. They can even go as far as looking at rural electricity. They can look at daycare. They can look at more healthy and more organic foods. They can look at affordable credit. There's a whole number of things that co-ops can do, and because of their business model, they can enter into more of helping us create localized economy. So what are we doing in the NWT? So a few years ago, a number of community groups working with people who live in poverty came together to form the No Place for Poverty Coalition. We took on the work of lobbying the GNWT to develop a poverty elimination plan, but we wanted to be involved in it. We organized the first anti-poverty forum in 2010, and there we are. With time, through a multi-stakeholder process with community groups, municipal and Aboriginal leaders, the government of the Northwest Territories has developed an anti-poverty action plan that has 5 pillars: children and family support, healthy living and reaching our potential, safe and affordable housing, sustainable communities, and an integrated continuum of service. We had the last roundtable in December here in Yellowknife that was looking at the action plan, and we came up with some common themes, and all of these really fit in quite well with localized economies. So expanding and enhancing food security, developing emergency, short-term, and transitional housing, developing community wellness plans, more about addictions and mental health programs and services, enhancing education, etc., etc. So really looking at things that would help us on the ground. Currently, the GNWT is offering grants for anti-poverty work. Now, I have to say, in my mind, we're not putting enough money, but what we are we're using well. So in 2014, it accepted proposals from non-governmental parties to undertake projects designed to reduce poverty in communities across the territory. And these were diverse and wide in their range, from traditional moose tiding, which other presenters have talked about, to sustaining a Nunavut community harvest, to supporting a community kitchen in Inuvik, to funding a campaign to achieve a living wage in Yellowknife. All of these efforts will help to develop localized economies. Most importantly, they help communities to start to regain control of their situations. So let's compare our work against what is called the Caledon Institute for Social Policy, and they developed 3 building blocks for the reduction of poverty. The first is adequate and stable housing. So in the roundtables and many times before, one of the things we heard right away is that in the communities they really need to start by using the homes that are vacant. That's the first place to start. In Yellowknife, there's been some work towards using what we call a housing first approach. Now, a housing first approach is really saying that regardless of what's going on in the person's life, we need to find them a place to live that is secure and safe. There's also some targeted work around homeless youth in Yellowknife that's very important. So new construction and rehabilitating social housing are important issues, but the other process to consider is really converting existing market units into affordable units. Now that requires grants or subsidies from governments, and it can be to communities, to service agencies, or directly to low-income residents. Other provinces are doing this. Saskatchewan, New Brunswick, and Ontario are looking at it. The NWT has sort of started down this route when it's started to transfer some of its income support dollars to NWT Housing Corps. So all these measures are important, but subsidies alone aren't enough. We also need to create communities of support for people who are vulnerable. I have to say at this stage, and I'll say it again later, the Government of Canada has abandoned the key role it used to play with social housing, and this needs to be undone and started again. Next is competence through adequate education and training, and many of the presenters have talked about this. Every poverty reduction plan has to include this, and so does our NWT plan. And they all say that early childhood is the place to start, and we have made some efforts in this area, but I would ask the question if we're thinking enough about the first 3 years, because those are really the key years. So we are talking about childcare spaces, but we're also talking about child development and well-being. So programs like family resource centers and well baby clinics are also examples. Another component that's really important is the level of graduation from high school. There's a serious problem with graduation rates, particularly in our smaller communities. In 2012, the NWT had an overall graduation rate of 56%. But this went down to 37% in the smaller communities. And we know there is a direct link between high school graduation and economic growth. So ECE, Education, Culture, and Employment, is doing some work on this through their education renewal process, trying to improve the situation. Again, the feds need to step up to the plate because they have a constitutional obligation here. We also need to be innovative. So how about things like asking college students or retired elders to volunteer in schools to help mentor and improve literacy? In the education world, we say if a child hasn't learned to read by grade 3, they're done, because everything else later is based on their ability to read. So we need to really focus intervention there. How about promoting registered education savings plans and the Canada Learning Bond? They can create a sense of expectation for further education. In the NWT, the take-up rate for the Canada Learning Bond is only about 9%. There's over 3,000 NWT children who could get it but are not getting it. There's lots of barriers. There's lack of information about it, lack of bank access. But if we were creative, couldn't we fix this? When we get to skills training, it's not just about having skills, it's also about having networks of support around people and removing potential obstacles like transportation to the job, appropriate clothes, and required tools. So I'm going to say that cities have a role to play here. For instance, Calgary has a low-income transit pass. I think the city of Yellowknife should also consider a subsidy for low-income workers to take transit. We have government programs that provide sports equipment to communities. How about a program to provide tools for low-income workers who are expected to supply the tools themselves? The final building block in poverty reduction is income security. Our cities and towns need to be exemplary employers. There is a profound community wealth in cities that we need to tap into. Cities spend a lot investing in projects. In addition to supporting businesses, our towns and cities need to use contracts to build community benefits. They should require their contractors to hire and train people who are or underemployed, not just part-time jobs, but jobs with decent pay, associated benefits, and safe work. There are two major streams to income security. The first relates to increasing income, and the second to reducing costs. One subcategory is income replacement, and this is through programs like employment insurance for loss of work. The other is a basic income guarantee for everyone. Employment insurance needs a lot of work though right now. According to the Canadian Labour Congress, only 37% of the 1.3 million unemployed workers in Canada are receiving EI. Yet the annual surplus, of the EI account is forecasted to be around $4 billion for 2014. And the federal government used the employment insurance funds to try to avoid a deficit budget in the last election. I have to know that fewer women than men receive EI because more women have part-time jobs and fewer hours of work, and so they end up not qualifying. The next concept is a basic income guarantee. Now this ensures everyone has income sufficient to meet basic needs and live with dignity. And this is regardless of their work status. It doesn't involve income testing or a willingness to work if a job was offered. Then we move on to the concept of a living wage. So communities across Canada are responding to the increasingly high levels of low-wage poverty. So you can be working full-time, double jobs, and still not make enough to meet your basic needs. So they are advocating for that families should earn an income sufficient for them to pay for the basic necessities of life, so we can live with dignity and be fully participating active citizens. We call this advocating for a living wage. Paying a living wage can have benefits as well for the employer because your employees stay longer, you don't have to do as much retention, and they're more productive because they're not holding down 2 or 3 jobs. Finally, there are income supplements for low-income families, and those are programs like the National Child Tax Benefit or the Working Income Benefit. But at this stage, they're set fairly low, and because the level of assistance provided is low, they're not working that well. So there's more work to be done on this issue. Then the final category is really to look at the issue of reducing costs. And in this sector, municipalities and communities play a key role, particularly around transit for a city like Yellowknife and recreation costs. So this is not just for those on income support, but it's for the working poor and perhaps even others. We know that poor kids do better if they can access community recreational programs. Yellowknife has recently introduced a Recreation for All program that offers free passes for families on income support and some low-income families. Vancouver does it in a great way. It gives 1 pass to anyone who receives the National Child Tax Benefit. So they don't have to go through another demeaning interview that asks all kinds of questions. They can just show they get the National Child Tax Benefit and they're eligible. For sure, the federal government, provincial, territorial, and Aboriginal governments, cities, towns, and hamlets have a role to play. So do businesses, co-ops, community groups, schools, churches, and you and I. Individual community members, we need to engage in this process, maybe by getting involved with community advocacy groups, maybe by drawing attention to the problems, by listening to stories, maybe by learning more and working hard not to fall into a poor bashing trap. This is first and foremost a human story, and it isn't community engagement, isn't community engagement all about building a localized economy. So let me finish with a quote. No one changes until we are backed into a corner. So how do we convince our nation that poverty has driven us into a corner? I think it comes first from hearing stories of people who have lived in poverty, and it also comes from making sure that they have their rightful place in dealing with the problem. But really, it's a problem that affects everyone. Based on our belief in human dignity and our capacity to be innovative, let's approach this fundamental problem with an attitude of hope. So I could end with this quote. If you are in the business of hope, you will never go out of business. Thank you.
Thank you. That's an amazing presentation, crammed into 15 minutes. Thank you. Our next speaker is Paul Cressman, and I think we might have time for one very quick question before we get his PowerPoint up. Does anyone have a question for Suzette? Larry?
Just one quick point. Medicine Hat, Alberta has a Housing First program that's quite successful. And because they put the people into the Housing First, the economic is really improving. The people's economy, they're going back to work, they're going to school. And that's what people need.
Absolutely, and they have also eliminated long-term homelessness in their community, so it's a great initiative. Yeah.
And we'll get your question, Jan, when we hear from everybody. Over to you, Paul.
Okay. I'll use this microphone. All right, so my name is Paul Cressman. This is my son Clyde here. I guess he's going as me for Halloween this year. So this is his costume he's trying on. My schooling is in outdoor recreation, parks and tourism. I studied at Lakehead University in Thunder Bay, Ontario, and I moved north in 2007. I moved to Fort Smith to work with youth at risk at the Trail Cross Treatment Center down there, where I got really interested in wilderness therapy programming. Since 2010, when I moved to Yellowknife, I've worked extensively with the Tlicho government and Tlicho government leaders and community leaders to develop and coordinate a couple of different programs that I'm going to tell you about. These programs are the Tlicho In-Bay program, which is focused on empowering youth, cultural reconnection, encouraging learning, and equipping young people with skills. And the Wilderness Safety Training program, which recognizes outdoor experts and trains them to be outdoor professionals. It takes a holistic approach and is really focused on knowledge sharing. I'll get into some more detail in just a moment. Both of these programs help people to be strong like two people, which is a Tlicho philosophy that I'm sure many of you are familiar with, and they both have an overarching goal of sustainable economic development in the Tlicho communities based on traditional skills. So first of all, the Tlicho In-Bay program is a summer employment program that is aimed at addressing the disconnect among the cultural disconnect among post-secondary students who leave their communities to attend school but are then away from their culture and language and elders and community. So it reconnects young people with their culture and language and elders. It also, again, helps promote the strong like two people philosophy, where young people who are going to learn Western education come back and remain strong in the Tlicho language and culture. The program runs in each community each summer, so Wati, Wekwati, Gamati, and Betchiko. The group leaders are hired from each community and then trained up in June, and the community programs run in July and August. So In-Bay is the Tlicho word for summer. The program, as I mentioned, works with post-secondary and senior high school students. We hire 30 participants each year, 8 group leaders, 2 from each community. We also hire 30 elders and community mentors throughout the region to help teach traditional skills each year. The program is focused on 4 different skill sections: traditional skills, employment skills, life skills, and safety skills. These are all set up on a rotating basis because of instructor availability, so each community gets the same program curriculum delivered, but it's in a different order in each community. Again, this program is meant to foster a generation of young people who are well educated in both the Western model and in Tlicho language and culture, and it's hoped that these young people will return home and be drivers of economic development based on their unique skills and knowledge. Every year we have entrance and exit surveys that we ask people to fill out so that we can measure any change in skills and attitudes, and we've had some really encouraging results. People have reported that their self-esteem has gone up, they felt more connected to their culture and to their language, and they show a higher understanding of their culture and their history. Again, just connecting with the elders is so important. It helps to foster relationships, and even something as what seems as simple as young people are reporting that they are going to bed earlier in the summer so that they can get up and be at work on time, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's a pretty significant life skill. People are reporting hope for the future for their communities. The one area that we've had challenges and haven't been able to show improvements is language learning. So we're working on that with a few programming modifications. The second program that I'm involved with is called the Wilderness Safety Training Program, and it works to certify outdoor experts and help them become outdoor professionals. Through the program, we're developing Tlicho teaching resources. We're reinforcing the value of traditional knowledge, and we're building on functional literacy and essential skills. The program started in 2014 with funding from the Training Initiative for Older Workers, but it's been in development since 2012. The aim is to run in each community, and so far we've run a program in Betchiko, and then this past year we ran partly in Wekwati and partly in Betchiko. The program runs in late winter and early spring. The people in this program are generally aged 50 to 64. They're people who are considered experts on the land. They're often hired by the Clecho government to run outdoor programs during the summer months especially. But other than those contracts, they're generally unemployed or underemployed. So the program is 12 weeks long, and during the program we run 9 different outdoor safety certification courses, which is well above the industry standard in Canada for outdoor professionals. We also take a comprehensive approach by running workshops in healing and wellness, employment skills, financial literacy, as well as a crash course in tourism and small business startup. Promoting knowledge exchange has been a really important part of the program, where we're constantly asking the participants to tell stories to each other about how their parents, how their grandparents taught them to be safe on the land, and really trying to involve traditional knowledge and modern knowledge. Something that I'm really excited about right now is that we discovered an opportunity to develop Clecho-specific safety courses. So we've been working with the participants, these outdoor experts, to develop curriculums and help translate materials into Clecho, so we can develop bilingual Clecho-specific courses that really represent sort of the attitudes and values and the realities of the terrain and the realities of life in the Clecho communities. This year we started with snowmobile safety, so and it's been we're close to getting this program off the ground. So the program exists for a couple of reasons. It certifies leaders of Clecho outdoor programs so that the Clecho government can offer a really high safety standard in its outdoor programs. It creates employment opportunities through the program. So graduates from 1 year are invited back to be instructors next year, and obviously they're paid to instruct programs like trip planning and management, and we're really hoping to get people certified up to an instructor level as well, to teach all of the technical courses as well. The people who graduate, like I said, are highly trained above the industry standard, and so they're highly employable by other organizations who are looking for skilled outdoor leaders. And again, these Clecho-specific safety courses can be run in high school, and they can be run by the people who develop the curriculum. The people in this program are well aware of their limitations and barriers, but this program really focuses on their strengths, and we'll get to this later, but we're figuring out ways to get over the barriers, but the self-confidence and just drilling into these guys, just the value and the incredible value of their skill, it's unbelievable. Just a few quick photos from this program. Here's some first aid. Here's a field trip that we did, some trip planning and management. During a wilderness first aid course. Here's William Apples on the left and Narcissus Rabiska on the right. They're flipping over a snowmobile to help translate the parts of the undercarriage. We have all of the body and engine parts translated. It's amazing. GPS. So here we go. Yeah, a lot of these guys, they just want a chance to use their skills, put them to work. Many of the people in the program were raised on the land, and I mean, it was just an honor to watch these guys out there. It was incredible. Learning about GPS navigation, map and compass, measuring distances. Both graduations have been a very touching experience for me too as well. I mean, these guys have worked really hard, and they deserve all the pride of their communities. So getting back to this overarching goal of sustainable economic development and traditional skills. Through these two programs, the Clecho government is developing a generation of young people who will return to their communities, who are educated in both the Western model and in traditional skills and cultural knowledge. They will have a group of highly skilled and certified outdoor leaders and Clecho safety course instructors that can work throughout the region. So we have a lot of training. We've done a lot of training. How do we turn this training into jobs? Again, these Clecho-specific safety courses can be run in the schools. We can sell seats to the Wilderness Safety Training Program. We've had a lot of interest from companies and other communities who are interested in sending people to take part in the program, again with these participants as instructors from the past. Promote the graduates to the Clecho government, Clecho Community Service Agency, as well as environment, natural resources, mining companies, reachers, etc. And then another area that I'm really interested in is starting low overhead tourism operations, where you don't need a massive investment, but just putting on traditional knowledge workshops in, say, in Betchico, and drawing on people from Yellowknife to go down there. Could be very easy, doesn't take a lot of money. And again, with all of the skills of the people, it's coming. It's coming to see. So we do have some barriers. The young people who come back to the communities don't have a local land-based tourism model to slide into. All of that infrastructure needs to be developed still, and so it feels like a daunting task for a lot of young people returning to the communities. These highly motivated grads, they have jobs in the summer. They'll be hired by the Toledo government, but we still don't have year-round job opportunities for them. And there's also a lack of business administration skills among these grads, like that quote said. Like they have immense skills on the land, but they lack a lot of the computer skills and the business admin skills. Now with these generation of young people coming back, we're looking to put these two groups together. As well as a lack of startup money and equipment and insurance. I know there's seed funding is available, but the technical nature of the application has proven to be a barrier that we're looking to overcome as well. Now there are lots of opportunities. One of the options that the Toledo government is looking at is a co-op style community business model, like I know like Delaunay has set up, where we have one person or a team of business administrators who deal with promotion and booking and finance and all of that, and yeah, all of that kind of stuff. And then the outdoor experts can develop their packages and do what they're really good at, which is getting out on the land and teaching people. We'll have, again, this is the 5th year of the INBE program, so we should start seeing these young people returning now with lots of knowledge and innovative ideas. We're close to Yellowknife, which is a real tourist hub, and so there's a year-round supply of tourists to draw on. And right now, fishing and hunting lodges are kind of in decline in terms of tourism, but there's a real boom in cultural and natural tourism throughout the north as well as the rest of the country. So through these two programs, the Toledo government, the Toledo government are working to help their people recognize the value of their traditional skills and knowledge. And they really feel that a community approach to achieve sustainable economic development is possible when getting these two generations to work together and share their skills. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Paul. That was great. Denise.
All right.
Are we good with this mic, the way it is?
Yeah. Okay.
So are we setting up for Denise? Or
Well, I can start while they're doing this.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Take it away, Denise.
All right, merci Sotene, Sila Denizen Nake Kon Suje. My name is Denizen Masicho. I'd like to acknowledge that we are on Chief Dragi's traditional territory within the Quechua region. I just want to say thanks to the organizers, to Lois, College North, also to MP Dennis Bevington and MLA Bob Bromley, and everybody that's helped working to put this gathering together. Also, just want to acknowledge and recognize all the knowledge and the skills and I guess the willpower of all the people in the room here, and sharing that with everybody. I know I've learned a lot sitting in the back and listening, so I just want to say that I really appreciate that. By day, I'm the custodian of the last vestiges of Indigenous broadcasting here in the NWT. I'm the director of CKLB Radio. By night, I don my cap and my cape, and I hang out with the Denanawo crew. And some of the Denanawo crew are here with me. It's my wife Heather in the back, and Amos Scott as well too. And also Stephanie Poole kind of hangs out with us as well too. She's part of the steering committee of our Indigenous Circumpolar Women's Gathering. So Denanawo, basically our vision is land, language, culture, forever. So we... Which motion did you want on the screen? What's that?
You want to say something particular thing on the screen?
Oh, just one second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we started. There was a bunch of us back in 2002. There was a big omnibus bill by Stephen Harper, and it galvanized a lot of different people. And there was a huge movement by grassroots people called "Idle No More," and it swept the whole nation. And it really lit a fire underneath us, so much so that we decided to have a drum dance at like minus 35 in December, which is pretty crazy. But we started something that was pretty amazing, and we were trying to figure out what to do after that, because there's only so much drum dancing in the street can do. So we decided to come together, and there's a bunch of us, our founding members, got together, and we decided to come up with an organization that kind of would kind of focus on the social and environmental justice for Northern people while promoting Indigenous leadership skills. And it was a big, lofty goal, and there's a bunch of different organizations that are somewhat similar that started in the past, but we felt that we could do a lot of good stuff. We're not very old, maybe about almost 3 years old, and in that span of time, we've really been focusing on a lot of land-based type of activities. There's a collective of us, and I'm more of a supporter, more of a mouthpiece, but within that collective, there's certain individuals that have certain ideas on what to do. One of those ideas was from my sister Mila, and she's been on a big kick to learn how to do moose hide tanning. And she started it because of my granny who passed away. My granny was trying to pass on knowledge to her, and as a young woman, she wasn't really interested in that. And then my granny passed away, and my sister kind of felt guilty about that. So she started beading, and then she figured out she needed some raw materials for beading. And then she wanted to go out and buy a hide, and she realized how expensive it was. So she said, "So I got to learn how to do this." So she started it, and it's a program that we help support and we help do. And my sister is actually an instructor in moose hide tanning now at the Shinta University's out there working on moose hides right now with their 3 boys. But one of the activities that I think we're most proud of Denanawo is coming up with this moose hide tanning workshop. But we figured that for moose hide tanning or caribou hide tanning, you need the tools to do that. And there's some traditional tools that usually your traditional tools you don't just kind of give out to anybody. Usually the people kind of hold that kind of close. So we started a moose hide, caribou hide tanning tool workshop, and we worked with George Roberts out of Whitehorse. He's a master knife maker, and we sent some of the master craftspeople from Fort Good Hope. We had Lucianne Yakalaya and Judy Lafferty, and then some men and some young ladies. They went to Whitehorse with George Roberts, and then they crafted these one of a kind moose hide tool making tools, and it was a pretty amazing experience. And after that, they had a caribou hide tanning workshop in Fort McPherson. So those are the type of the activities that we think are really important, that we really want to support. And out of those activities, there's so many lessons that come out of it. And just being around my sister and her work, she's building a community just from this one activity. In order to work on a moose hide, you need to have a relationship with harvesters, and a trust and based relationship where the harvester will trust my sister to work on a hide. My sister's got to trust the harvester to make sure that the harvester is doing his job or hers job when harvesting moose or caribou, and that they will treat the animal with respect, treat the meat with respect, and treat the hide with respect. And so there's that relationship. Also with working on a hide, she needs to have a relationship with elders. and knowledge keepers. So right away she's establishing these relationships with these older ladies. They need help because working on a moose hide is like a hard work. You need patience, you need dedication. Also, she said that she learned how to read and appreciate the land by working on moose hide, because one of the key ingredients is dasha, is the rotten wood. So my sister is able to kind of scan a forest and kind of figure out where there might be some dead or rotting wood out there as well too. So all of these different lessons come out of this one activity. And those are the type of things that we want to support and we want to work at. Also, last year, we were able to put together a Circumpolar Indigenous Women's Gathering. It's the first time ever anything like that happened. It was a pretty amazing experience. I got to hang out with that a little bit. And some amazing ladies from all over the circumpolar world were able to come and gather and share their ideas and build a network and help support each other. And we're happy to be a part of that and work towards that. Those are some of the activities that we're doing, and we do have some plans to continue on some more tool making courses and some hide making workshops in some of the communities as well too. There's some initiatives that we're working on to help build leadership courses and mentorship courses for a lot of young people out there, to kind of help identify some of the young people that show leadership qualities and to kind of pair them up with some people who've kind of been through that gauntlet of leadership and connect them with a mentor. And also, a big part of what we do is to try to build relationships. So being able to speak at events like this kind of goes a long way, because a lot of what we do comes from who we are. And we are Dene people. We're the indigenous peoples of this area. We've been here for thousands of years, before Jesus, before Buddha. So the knowledge that we have is ingrained in us almost to the genetic level. And it gets to the point where we have this strong feeling about this land that we come from. It's really hard to vocalize, but for me, when I was growing up, I went to high school and I graduated. One thing I wanted to do was just wanted to get the heck out of here, because I thought the North was so boring and nothing was happening as a young man. And I went south, lived in the States, but the longer I stayed, I realized that there was something missing within me, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And then one summer I came back and I went on the Dade Show on the river with my dad near Chiquiquena, Fort Simpson. And then he pulled out some moose meat. He had some moose ribs. We sat by the shore, made a fire, had some tea, cooked some moose ribs. And then when I took a bite of that moose rib, that meat, it was like this energy that just flowed through my body. And then that missing piece that I had within me was that was it. Being able to eat the food that comes from this land that I come from. And that was a profound experience for me. And then that is why I'm here, and I do the work that we do. Our vision is land, language, culture, forever. And so we work at and support a lot of initiatives that would support that. For like our moose hide, caribou hide tanning workshop, we need a special relationship with the animals and with the land. In order to get the animals to do the moose hide stuff, the animals need to have a habitat to survive and live on. So that goes to a lot of the different things that are happening here on this land. So rapid resource development when it comes to oil and gas or mining or fracking, those things raise some flags with us and cause us concern. And in order to continue on to have land, language, and culture forever, we have to seriously talk about and think about a lot of the things and a lot of decisions that we're making. And a lot of the discussions that are going on here, I think, really have to do with a matter of willpower with a lot of people, a lot of the decision makers out there that, that we have a lot of good ideas. A lot of people are actually doing them right now. It's being able to support those people that are doing those things, but also just convincing other people that we can do it and that we should do it, and it makes sense. I think one of the things about people from the north is that they choose to live up here because it's unlike any other place in the world. I mean, we have a great opportunity to do things that make sense for us up here. I mean, the south, they have their own way of doing things, and certain things work for them down there, but some of those ideas really don't fit up here in how we live and how we view things. So I'm really happy to be a part of this. I'll be available for any questions afterwards, but you should bug Amos back there as well too. So Masi, appreciate your time, and thanks again to everybody who helped organize this event. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Jose. Very inspiring. We'll have lots of questions. Rosalind Mercredi.
Hi, I'm Rosalind Mercredi. I run Down Towards Gallery in Old Town. We are pretty much a grassroots kind of a gallery, an artist collective. We've been operating now for about 9 years. So what happened, I guess I'll tell you a little bit about our story, how we started. About 10 years ago, I decided that I didn't want to work with the government anymore. I was an artist at heart and I wanted to do that, so I quit my government job. And so I needed to find a place to live, and I wanted to do art. So I found this place in Old Town, and I could live in the back and start a little studio gallery in the front. So I did my own art for about a year there, and then I decided we needed to get more people. And so I found 6 artists at first. I wanted to have a variety, so I had a basket maker, and a potter, and a painter, and a traditional artist, and one of everything, all 6 of us in there. And we had a little meeting, and we discussed possibilities. And we had no money, so we didn't apply for any money. We just said, okay, we'll do consignment. We went to the dump, we got some furniture, and we painted things up and added things and set up this little space. And we started. So we started with the 6 artists first, and then as other artists came around, we started adding to that bunch. And now we have probably just over 90 different artists selling in the gallery. We only decided we'd only sell sell art that was made in the north, which sometimes that can be a bit difficult because you can't always, like I see the gallery next door when they go on these buying shows down south, and I thought that'd be easy, But sometimes it's Christmas time and you haven't got the artists coming in, you're thinking, okay, what do we, go in the back and make some more stuff yourself or something. But you always kind of get promoting people, and so part of running that little gallery is promotion. And so we try and talk to people all the time by holding events and things. But anyways, part of having the different artists, I don't know, kind of all over. I just came back from my daughter's wedding yesterday, so I'm not quite focused yet in Mexico, so I've got a Mexico brain. So anyway, we started the gallery. We had the different artists started coming in. We were primarily consignment art. Everything was on consignment. Most traditional artists want to have cash up front. So at first, when we first started, we couldn't afford traditional art because we decided we weren't going to apply for any funding because that would make things too complicated. We just run as we go and do as we go, and So, but as we started getting a little bit of money, we started buying more traditional art, and that's probably now our primary item. So, but there's issues there because part of it, you run around a gallery, but our gallery is not about making money. It's about making art and selling art and showing art. So sometimes we have artists coming and selling something, and we'll say, they'll ask for a price, and I'll say, well, I think that's too cheap. We'll say market more, or somebody wants to do some marketing, so we make business cards for people. We just do whatever we think people need. They have things they want to show us. They talk about what they want to produce or what's good to produce, and it's kind of like this. I don't know, it's a kind of an amalgamation of these minds all the time, and is working with people. So there's this huge cottage industry out there of artists from all over the north that, when I first came and started doing art myself, I went to the different galleries in Yellowknife to see if they would take my art. So some would take some, and some would take a little bit, maybe not, but was never enough to make a living off of. And I thought, you can't make a living like this. You know, you can't count on anything. It's kind of like people are judging. It's almost like asking for social assistance, right? Well, they don't like it, or you know. So I thought that's part of the reason why I sort of started the gallery, because I thought this is just not a way to go. So we take pretty much everybody's things. So we give advice though. Sort of things about moose hide, that's a really tough one, because now we get, you know, people are now using that Stroud instead of moose hide, and because they can't get moose hide. So that kind of takes away from our northern arts or northern traditions and what people are seeing about our work. So you try to promote as much as you can, that kind of thing. So part of being an artist collective too is that we want to promote art. So in Old Town, which is where we are, we decided that we had to make things happen in Old Town too. So one of the things, the first year we were there 9 years ago, I decided that we should have a festival in Old Town. So I went and talked to a few people, different businesses in Old Town, and we started the Old Town Ramble and Ride. A music arts festival. First year we had no money, so I was giving musicians gift certificates in the gallery to play at our stage. You know, it's just that you just do what you have to do, right? So, and they were all good. The people who, you know, came every year, storytellers, you know, Tony Folio and all those different bands, they just came to play. And now we've been moving it up every year. Now we have a little bit of a budget now, so we became a society, so we could actually get funding to host bigger shows and bring in more artists and sort of pay artists to display their items. So we started the Ramble and Ride. We've also started an art show we do at wintertime called the Isolation Art Show, which we do at the snow castles. It's ice-themed art. We call artists from anywhere who wants to participate. So we've had artists in that show from all over the north. They just hear about it. We don't actually pay anybody. It's just an art show for art's sake, and you get exposure. Then we also organize another show. We've done this about 5 years now. Is the Anonymous Art Show, where we get these 6-inch panels, panels or canvases, and people can get these canvases, paint them or do whatever they want to them, and we put them back and we have an art show and we sell them and have like a little wine and cheese open house. But the first year we did that show, we had about 90 pieces of art back, probably 40 artists. Last year we did it again, we had 150 pieces of art back, and we had like 70 artists. So, I mean, it's so different, because people don't sign their art on the front, they sign in the back. So people who are always these closet artists and hidden artists everywhere out there. And you know, kids, we have kids, and you know, my mom did one last year, first time she ever painted, and somebody bought it. Like, I was gonna buy it myself, I felt so bad. And now somebody got my mom's picture, so it's like, oh, I thought, but anyway. So I mean, it's just a way of bringing people in, getting people to see and appreciate there's so much nice art out there. We have people like from Sigachik sent in artwork for our show last year. We had people from Simpsons sending us stuff on the airlines for the show last year, because it's just a fun thing and people get that exposure. So I think part of doing the art and having the gallery down there is to bring people together. I think art is a way of sharing your stories, telling your stories. I think it's really important that we share that, and that people know that this is who we are, and whether no matter what kind of economic development you do or what kind of community development you do, your art, your stories, performance art, it gives us our identity, and I think it's important that we keep that in everything we do and move it along with as we develop. And anyway, that's pretty much it.
Great. Whoa, that's great. Well, that really is about the well-being that people were talking about in the survey. Like, these 4 people here just really captured the essence. So, questions? Jan, and I think we've got some online too. Yeah, Jan, go ahead.
So I have a variety of questions. Most of them I can ask one-on-one to the presenters later. So the main one I wanted to ask to you as a group is primarily directed to you, Suzette. I'm just talking about the discussion around living wages. And I've talked to some people about this in the past, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around the logistics of how that might be implemented. I certainly support the philosophy that if somebody's working full-time, they should be able to support their family. What I'm wondering, though, is for small businesses, for example, in the north, if they had to pay any more, it'd make it much harder to compete against the Walmarts and the superstores and that sort of thing. So how do you implement a living wage in an economy, whether it's the size of Yellowknife or LBNWT, without creating a disadvantage to those small businesses that have very marginal profits to start with? How could that, what are the logistics of that? What might that look like?
So I'll give my perspective, but the good thing about working in a coalition is there's other people, and so if I miss something, please jump in. So first of all, it's a voluntary program, and Alternatives North, through the Anti-Poverty Action Plan, we got funds to develop a campaign around it. So first of all, to introduce the idea and to meet with various employers. You're right, it is easier for some employers to be living wage employers, so we're going to approach them first because that's the place you should start. But I think for the smaller businesses, one of the ways that this can actually work for them is they often, if you don't pay a living wage, you're often spending a lot of time and efforts recruiting, and that goes against your end productivity and the amount of action that you do. So those are some of the points that we would make. But it's really, one of the things that you do is you recognize agencies or employers, that are living wage employers. It doesn't mean that all of them will become, but it's a long-term goal. I don't know if Julie or Aggie, you would have anything to add to that?
I guess the other point I would make is that if people earn more money, they will spend it in the community almost always, because they're not earning so much money they're going to fly to Edmonton. So there is a multiplier effect of paying somebody more, they have more to spend, and that benefits the community generally. Yeah, as Suzette says, it's completely voluntary. And already small businesses, I'll take For Women Only as an example, she already knows that she can't keep staff unless she pays them well above the minimum wage. And there are a group of dedicated shoppers at that shop because it is a local business and because she pays her staff properly. So that's the kind of model that we're looking at for the living wage employer, as well as the big institutional employers like the City of Yellowknife.
Thank you. David Krutko has a comment online, and then Larry.
Yeah, more in line with the crafts and sales. Working personally working with the Northwest Territories, we have a tenant canvas shop everybody knows about. It's been there for 30 years. It's a government institution, it's a corporation, and yet there has never been any community involvement in it. And finally, the Auditor General finally spoke up, and now they're trying to do something. But one thing we're looking at doing is start developing or taking advantage of that facility, because it is designed to make it products. But we want to go back with the elders and talk about the traditional clothing they used to make. They depended on canvas products, regardless of canvas groups, or canvas markets, or canvas whatever, but also market the crafts from the people in the community. We have people going to Whitehorse and always to Anchorage, Alaska, selling their local crafts, which they basically develop all winter, in which it's done, top item and sold because it's the traditional sewing and the methods of using traditional products. That's the selling point. And I think that marketing is the key thing. I think is where is basically buyers coming from. So I think for us, now because everybody's catching on, everybody's going to Anchorage, Alaska, when we have this large Aboriginal gathering in Alaska. Basically, you can sell all your products within a matter of a day. And I think, so it's how do you market it, but more important is how do you work with the crafts people in the communities and use the existing facilities in your community and tell government it's time to make a rule for the local entrepreneur to use those facilities to develop those local products and market it out of those facilities. You have a web page that has a canvas drawing for a person that maybe add another product to your product line, such as basically crafts, for instance, sewing basically, porcupine quilt, or all the other stuff that comes along by the way of crafts. We have a local person, Margaret Redford, she's over 80s now. She sells her crafts right out of her house. She was on the presentation yesterday. And I think it's that type of marketing you have to do, but you've got to develop from the community level and use those basically facilities in your community. So, thank
Good point. Thank you very much, David. Roz, do you want to make a comment on that?
One thing I think that's true. One thing we notice a lot is that it's kind of a pride in work. When you come to the gallery, you have artists. We have artists that come from Fort Lee Art, and their work is distinctive in their way. We have a Holman artist, and to have the beadwork. Sometimes you get the beadwork from Watee is different from the beadwork from Fort McPherson, and so that kind of pride when people come in and show their stuff, and when somebody identifies and recognizes, oh, that person's from. That's the thing that's worth knowing and sharing. And when you have art from a community coming in and it's attached to that community, then I think that's and the marketing is a problem for sure. I mean, as when you go down south and you look at what's being sold and you know that the quality up here is so much better. We're still doing the traditional stuff in the traditional ways. That finding that kind of market is true. And even in the gallery ourselves, and sometimes people need the money right away, and that's what part of the issue is. You can't wait for the consignment. You can't wait they need to sell right away, and so it's expensive to buy traditional arts. But I think, the more we push that, the better off we are. Yeah, exactly.
And Dennis A's got some thoughts on this too.
Yeah, just wanted to, I agree. I mean, it's so important. But I just also wanted to mention that I think it's so important to acknowledge the skill level, the mastery of these people working in our communities. It's so amazing. Like, I think we kind of do them a disservice when we talk about crafts, arts and crafts. We think about little trinkets, but the amount of the skill, these are masters. I mean, I think Arthur talked about it in Fort Good Hope, and it's a point of pride with people that, especially in Liard, the birch bark baskets, so every location's got its specific kind of expertise. But such amazing work. So I think it's so important to kind of acknowledge that, and that the time and effort to go into all that. These are like master skilled people.
Exactly. And Paul, you've got a comment too.
Sorry, I just wanted
to say that in the Clecho region, there's a Clecho online store that sells local arts and crafts, and what we're looking at is using that website that already exists to also sell tourism packages. And I think that the promotion and sale of local arts and local tourism, like local experiences, can go hand in hand and really work well together as a promotional model.
Thank you. We had Giselle Marion this afternoon talking about that. So we're going to go to the online comments, questions. Craig?
We just had a couple comments. Joyce Rebeska said for Denise, it's so nice to hear your Dene approach. Would love to talk to you about our Indigenous Learning Center. You're demonstrating what we are trying to communicate in our presentation right now with this concept. Thank you. We'd love to talk to you more about this. And for Paul, there's Moise Rebeska is interested in being involved in your program. So great.
And I think there was a comment way back this morning congratulating Danny Bea and his stellar presentation, and I didn't recognize that, Danny. Thank you. Dennis.
All right, Joyce and Moise, if you guys are still listening, I just want to say, I'd love to hang out with you guys. Be really cool. But for the organization, Denenamo, we're like in the preliminary stages, but we are working towards an end goal of maybe having, I don't know, like a social, cultural innovation type center somewhere located here. I think it's something that's kind of lacking in the north. If you look to our neighbors to the west of the Yukon, Whitehorse has an amazing center over there when it comes to displaying cultures from the Indigenous people over there as well too. And also we're also working on a program for leadership and mentorship for young people as well too. So hopefully we can get to that. I just also want to mention that we have a bunch of ladies working at Denenabo, and these ladies are pretty amazing and doing a lot of work when it comes to the stuff that we want to see. And we all have full-time jobs as well too, so this is all like when we say we're this by day, we do this at night. That's how it is.
See, thank you. Larry and then Doug.
Okay, I have a question for Paul on the behalf of the Dene people of Fort Simpson and the Decho area. How will you be able to come to Fort Simpson with your program sometime soon?
That makes me very happy to hear. Because these programs they're not mine. It's not like I invented these programs. It's all Pleacho government people addressing Pleacho problems that they've identified. Having said that, I'm sure that they would be interested in sharing sort of the lessons learned and working together to try to develop similar programs.
Yeah, because we really need something like that.
Yeah,
I think all the smaller communities do throughout the.
I think we've got the message here about it's all about partnerships and working together, so we've got some great synergy happening. Doug?
For Paul again, with your trainees and your elderly folks that you're training there, and you mentioned that you employ them in the summertime. Do they get employed enough to be able to draw unemployment insurance? Like they say, there's a big surplus there. Are they able to extend their incomes a little bit longer?
I can't speak to everyone's situation. I know that some people get hired more than others, and some people have more sort of full-time temporary work with community governments as foremen and that kind of thing. But off the top of my head, I would say no at this point, that the employment season isn't quite long enough to qualify.
That's been a concern where people work and they fall 2 weeks short of being able to
Absolutely.
get EI. If there was a way to modify that wage structure to carry them into that period required for EI.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Just can I say that's the intentional government decision made that they seasonal work groups they intended extended the amount of time required so the seasonal work groups were cut out.
Christine, and then Dennis.
Christina, yeah.
Christine, sorry.
And just brainstorming in my head, but one of the things that Ducks Unlimited is thinking about is monitoring and surveying of wetlands and waterfowl, and I was just talking with CWS colleagues, and they're thinking about some technologies like putting recorders out, recording birdsong as a way of knowing what's going on out there. And so if we're talking about local economies and trying to get pieces of work that can dovetail together and create more of a living, this might be another piece. And if you look at Sai Dene Nene and that sort of, you've probably read about it, the Guardian program and that kind of thing, how can this come together? So please come and talk to me too. I have to leave soon, but I'm scrambling around giving cards, but maybe at lunchtime if you want to talk about this.
And we will be hearing from folks from Socio-economic and from the debt show this afternoon. Yeah. Did anyone have any comment or? Dennis.
Thank you. It's to Paul, and it's kind of fits it all together when you talk about people that have a high degree of traditional skills in the woods. I know I worked at Frank's Channel from 1971 to 73. We fought many fires there and people up in the woods, and that was you saw that skill level, and the seasonality is something that people enjoy, working seasonally. I don't think it's a burden to work seasonally. I think it's just the fact that there's only a certain amount of work in each season. And some of these new activities, like the harvesting of non-timber forest products, which somebody's called out, morel mushrooms or anything else within the forest, is there a real feeling in your communities that this might be something that can be added to the agenda, to the development of the lifestyle of the people there?
Sure. So you're speaking about specifically morel mushrooms, or just other
generally
opportunities?
Looking at the forest as a source of seasonal use.
Sure. So I know that there's a big push on for morel mushroom harvesting this year in the Pleacho region, and I can't speak to other forest-specific, other harvesting specific activites. I do understand that in sort of the traditional cycle of the year, that there are times that you work to survive, right? You work to collect food and gather food and that kind of thing, and wood, and that there is, then you have to sort of fit your economic programs in, your employment programs in around those really important times. And I think that there are a number of opportunities to do short-term, weekend, week-long workshops that don't need to impact muskrat hunting season or caribou season or fishing or anything like that. Yeah, just kind of looking at it from a year-round approach and figuring out what is the schedule that works with the traditional cycle of the year. I feel like I'm not answering your question properly, but.
Well, it's not a question. It's
just a
discussion.
okay.
So I think that's we're here for that discussion.
Yeah, sure.
How can we localize the economy, and how can we make best use of the things that we have?
Sure, absolutely.
I don't think we all have the answers yet.
Right.
But we're working on it.
We're working on it.
Thank you. Arthur's got a question, and Bob Brownlee's got a question.
Mine is basically has to do with community wellness, and I think a lot of the items that we worry about is what Pam was talking about poverty. A lot of people are stressing out about bills, but we, the Yamoga level, we always want to get a community health is always a priority. Their well-being, their mental state, their emotional state, and I think a lot of what's happening in other areas in terms of the news side is a real good way to try to get people's their attitude right again. They're out on the land, they're keeping out on the land. So people what they do is they need to support something and to support each other. We're looking for leaders, and out there you can really see who has the leadership abilities. I really I'd like to get a sense of how you guys do your leadership training. We still need it. We try to tend to get groups of people working on projects, but you need people that show leadership abilities, and they're not always recognized. You need people that can show that confidence that you're building. One thing that really tends to bring that down is poverty. Giving usefulness to the lack of
Yeah, thank you very much, Arthur. That's an excellent question. Dennis A., and then maybe Suzette could come in on that as well. And then we'll get to Bob, and then we'll get to Rick.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I got a lot of respect and a lot of honor for the Clicquot government. I often talk to a lot of different people, and I always often say that the Clicquot government is the most Canadian government we have here in this country right now, because it was actually created here by people from here. I mean, our federal parliamentary system and the provincial government, municipal governments, all were inherited from another part of the world, come from the United Kingdom. As a country, we never even had an opportunity to create a system of government that makes sense for people that live here. So we just kind of inherited this system. But the Clicquot government was created by the indigenous people, the Clicquot people from the territorial government and the federal government, and they created a government that made sense for the people that lived in that specific geographic location. And I think that's why they are able to do all the programs that they're able to do, because they've gotten to a level where they've come to a level where they have their land claim, they have their self-government agreement, so they can focus on all the other priorities that they feel are important. I think for some other regions, they're still trying to get to that level, so that's their focus. But when it comes to poverty, I used to work with Judy Cushon at CKLB, and we used to have lots of amazing conversations. And then for her, it comes down to a point of pride. She says that for a lot of our communities, a lot of our people, they don't feel pride, they feel shame. There's colonization has did a huge number and continues to do a huge number on the indigenous people of this country and this land. But she says once you know your history and you know your culture, then you understand how amazing the people that we come from are. I just heard a quote today that says that all the indigenous people that live today come from the strongest of the strong, because we went through residential school, tuberculosis outbreaks, all the different stages of genocide. So the fact that we still have indigenous people here and we're still participating. So all the indigenous people are the strongest of the strong. So I think if people realize that in our communities, I think it'll be a point of pride. And I think it'll be a beginning of trying to get themselves out of this cycle of shame that we see, the cycle of dysfunction that seems to be normalized in our communities. So all the activities that we try to do, we try to push that point of pride on a lot of different people. You got to be proud of who you are and where you come from, because it's pretty amazing if you actually think about it. To live in this part of the world, you know, the extreme temperatures out there, and to be able to survive and live and continue to survive and live, it's pretty amazing. So that trying to push that pride aspect in the work that we do to help try to people kind of help themselves up.
Merci, thank you very much. Suzette, would you add to that?
Yes, just a quick comment. There's a large movement within the poverty movement that talks about poverty reduction and eliminating poverty as a human right. We should have the right to food, we should have the right to shelter, to clean water, all of these things, but on a right perspective, not on a charity perspective. So how we do things is as important as what we do, and I really support your statement and Dennis' about we need to do, whatever we do, we need to leave people feeling better about themselves, not demeaned.
Thank you. Bob, and then Dessa.
Yeah, thank you. Wow. I really appreciate these discussions. My mind is shooting off in so many directions. Is anybody else experiencing so, yeah, I think we're achieving that where this is really exhilarating stuff. This is meaningful discussion of the strongest of the strong, which are well represented here, and their voices are so clear. So anyway, I can't say enough about how inspired I'm getting from the discussions so far throughout the forum here. I just want to follow up on Dennis, and several other people have brought up this business about seasonal work, part-time work. I think Diana said, you know, the local economies don't so have much of a focus on the monetary aspects as other things that reflect quality of life and other values of the community. And to me, it just seems a whole rich area for discussion. It seems to address, you know, not only poverty and training and skills, but you know, meeting our food security needs, you know, looking after the commons and so on. The opportunity with part-time work to do those things, like recognize the critical need to spend time with your kids, especially during those first few years. These are young families, and they're usually struggling to keep up with the cost of living, and yet countries around the world now, Finland leading the way, are recognizing how critical those first few years are. So just a very rich area for bringing in to our considerations about government policy, you know, how local government can support that sort of thing, and the implications to our local economies. You know, freeing up people to maybe volunteer. I know there's people in the room I've talked to who would prefer to work half-time or 2/3 because they really want to volunteer more, and they're already out there pretty incredibly. So lots of rich areas. That's just one that came to mind just now, but I thank everybody for the outstanding presentations and questions. Great.
Thank you. Vessa's got a question, and then Dennis, and then we're stopping for lunch because we are going to end up running into a problem with our presenter at lunch and also our panel this afternoon. So.
I'll try to be short. I like what David Kupo said yesterday. In this community, everybody wants to bring things from themselves and implement them in the community. But the elders took responsibility and they took over the community. That, for me, is what we took away from the elders' responsibility. We cannot go ahead and create something that they don't understand. The languages are different, and so what we're having is this mismatched things happening in the community. I work since I was 19 in the community. I work across Canada, different parts of the world. Everywhere I go, no one's listening to the elders. We need to sit down when you're going to make decisions for the future. You got to make sure there's a body of elders sitting here helping you make that decision. All I see is so much young people doing the work. And I believe if you're going to change the future, you got to put the healing first, treatment first with the people. It can't be in a house like a residential school. It has to be in a community where you can build something on the land for people to go to heal. I don't mean going in there with all kinds of treatment programs. I mean cultural treatment program, where people are going to heal through cultural treatment. And cultural treatment is putting activities in there, putting knowledge in there, putting, like healing programs in there, where they can go get some healing. They can go on trails to talk about ancestors, because what the elders always say, you have to know who you are. You have to know where you're going to. You have to understand that you have to build your future. How are you going to build that future for yourself? What happened in our community is that we got so impacted with so many different things. A long time ago, when I was a young child living on the land, there was no such thing as all these things that are creating so much garbage on this land. Why? Why are we creating so much where we don't know how to dispose of? We're looking at mines, we look at all that. When I go onto the land, I see animals standing on the shore, so sick they can't move. How many times are they eating all these vegetations that is all contaminated? We can't always think about humankind. We have to look at what is happening to the animals, what is happening to the water. Do we have pure water here? No. We have tar sand water going into this lake, going to Mackenzie River, all the way to the ocean. My people that live in that area are all getting sick. There's death always happening, and nobody's looking at those deaths. What do we do to heal that first, before we can build something that everybody can work together with? That is what I like to see. It's what I want to hear, and I'm not hearing it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. Dennis, a quick comment? And Aggie, did I see your hand up too? Yeah. Yeah. Quick, let's be quick.
I just wanted, before lunch, to give Dennis an opportunity to talk about the event his organization has happening tomorrow at 2 o'clock at the museum.
Oh, yeah. What event is that again? No, there's a book launch tomorrow night, and everybody is invited to come. I know we have some time, but come see me or come see Heather, and we'll let you know about it as well too. So we're pretty excited about that. I think it's one of those things that came out of the Circumpolar Indigenous Women's Conference and then the network that we've helped build. So
We'll talk more about that. Thank you. So are you okay, Dennis? Can we carry on for lunch?
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's have a lunch break here. We've got a presenter over lunch, Mr. Sanders from Arctic Green Energy is going to be doing a presentation. So again, as yesterday, grab your lunch, come back, and then we're going to hear from AJ. Must say Joe. Oh, wow.
You got another ticket.
Great, Ross. Excellent. Thanks. This will go great. It's working just fine. I don't think I should do this. I know. I'm back from Iceland Monday.
No, Tom Livingston. She does.